Welcome to the DevWorm channel, and today we're going to learn how to make cutscenes just like this one right here. So when we walk over here, a field is going to be building itself, and it builds itself just like that. We can walk back, and the field is already built because we just played the cutscene. But before we get started, please hit that subscribe button, drop a like on this video so more inspiring game developers can learn to make their own Godot games as well. But without further ado, let's learn to make this nice little cutscene right here. Build the field just like that. Boom. Looks pretty cool, but let's get started. Okay, so before we get started, I just want to point out that I did go and I cleaned up, this area. So like we have area 1, which is basically the background, the foreground, which is, the pathways, the growing zones. All these growing zones here are now in their own folder. The onion seed pack, the carrot seed pack, the cell zone, the shop, and the chicken are all in area 1. And then we have our player, obviously. We have our weather control, and we have our overlay, which is just all the text and the icons that we've created in the past episodes. But today is a big day because we are going to be adding a completely another area. We're going to be going over cutscenes, and we're going to be kind of explaining how everything works today. And I'm going to try and go through it quickly because it's going to be pretty long, but this is going to be a jam-packed episode. You're going to learn a lot, and I know that. So to get started, let's just go and let's make a new area. Let's make a static body because that's kind of what I use, or that's what you should use for the folders. I will name this our area 2, which is going to kind of have all of our stuff, in this area. But first, we need to go and create the cutscene, and for cutscenes, you need a cutscene controller. So I'm going to use a Node 2D, and we can just name this our cutscene controller, right? And here we're gonna have nothing, just absolutely nothing. We're just gonna have a script, cutscenecontroller.gd, and in this script we're gonna put some code. So we can delete all this, and we're gonna need a variable for our current cutscene, because this is gonna control all the cutscenes in the entire game. Now obviously I'm only gonna make one cutscene in this video, but this is gonna be a modular thing, so you can use it for as many cutscenes as you need in your game. So let's say our current cutscene's none. We have cutscene number none. We have cutscene, new farming zone, and cutscene whatever other cutscenes you have, right? And then we'll have a function process, not that, function process. And then in our function, we're gonna have global, which is basically going to get our global script. If you don't already have a global script, make sure you make a global script because it's pretty important. But we'll also do current dot cutscene. So our current cutscene is equal to our current cutscene. Now save. Obviously we don't have this variable yet, but we can go to our global script, and then we can make a whole new area. So we'll do boom cutscenes. All of our cutscenes, stuff will go in this zone. And in here we'll just do a var cutscene, right? So in our var cutscene, then we want to go back to our world, or we want to go back to our cutscene controller. And now we want to do if global dot, let's see, so we could, let's do this. So we'll go to our global script again, and in our global script we'll do our new farming zone activate equals false, right? So this is just our cutscene. So when we start, obviously it's not going to be active, but if we go to our cutscene controller, then we want global dot our new farming zone dot active is equal to true. So if it's equal to true, then we'll do if current cutscene is equal to none, then current cutscene equals to new farming zone, right? Obviously this is because we want to make sure that there's no cutscene going on, because if there is some other cutscene in the game going on, we don't want to overlap it with a different cutscene, if that makes sense. So that's kind of what that's for. Now if we go to our world and we go into our area 2 folder area, then actually first first of all, we need to go to our player. We're gonna make a new function down here, and this function is just gonna be so we can check if our player, when our player enters the area, if it is if it is our actual player or if it's, you know, not our player, because obviously we want it to be our player if we're gonna be like, because let's say the chicken can move. If the chicken crosses like over into the zone, we don't just want to like switch the camera because the chicken's there, right? We want the player to activate the cutscene. So now we can go in our area 2D. We can add our area 2D, and then we can name this, you know, like open farming zone 2, right? Because this area over here is going to be named farming zone 2. And then we can add a collision shape 2D and a rectangle, and we can just make it elongated like this, and we can just put it like right here somewhere, right? So that's fine. So once our player walks here, then we'll play the cutscene. So then we can go to our area 2D. We can go to a body entered signal. It's going to send a signal to our world script, and on our world script, we're just going to want to do if body dot has method player, then we'll pass for now. But this is just to make sure our player is our player. So whatever enters the area is our player. Because if a chicken enters the area, we don't want to do this, right? But if the player enters the area, we do want to do this. So, or we do want to play the cutscene. So that's what that is for. Now, we're going to go into our area 2D. We're going to add a tile map. And in this tile map, we're going to, you know, do all the basic stuff. Like the cell size is going to be 16 by 16. Make a new tile set. And if you don't have this art and you want to, you know, use the exact same art, then the art is in the description below, and you can go and download it from an itch.io page there. But, you know, 16 by 16 grid, new single tile, new single tile, new single tile. I messed that up, didn't I? I already messed it up. It's fine. New single tile, 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 and one more. There we go. So now we can go to our tile set, and we can kind of draw out what we want. So we got, you know, we'll make it, we won't make it a full, you know, area, a full size. We'll make it some, so the camera will move over a little bit. But we'll just cover up all this with green, and then we'll add some, you know, some type of field. We'll do like however big of a field we want. So we'll just do, you know, let's line it up with these. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we'll just do like 6 across, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll just go like 3 down, like so. And honestly, let's expand this green a little bit. We'll expand this green out to here. And we can go up here. Over here we can go across. Right here we can have, you know, the corner. We can have the side. Whoa, 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 whoa. And then we can have the corner, and then we can have the other corner. Just like so. And then now we're going to go back to our area 2D. We're going to need something to cover up the field, right? Because obviously when our cutscene occurs, we don't want just the field to spawn out of nowhere, right? We need something to cover it up. Now, keep in mind, obviously, if you don't have a field opening in your game, you can change this based on anything you need. And I'm going to explain that a little bit more in a second. So if you're trying to make a cutscene and you're like, none of this matches up, none of this connects to the game I'm trying to make, hold up, wait a second. It's all going to make sense here in just a minute. So now that we have our Now that we have our tile map, we're going to go and add a color rect. And then, obviously, mine color rect needs to be green. We can kind of move this just to cover the field, just like so. And then, here's the part that's gonna, you know, help everyone. An animated, not an animated sprite, an animation player. Now this is gonna get pretty complicated. So, hold up, listen up. Here we go. So, our animated sprite, we're going to create a new animation, and we're gonna make it whatever your cutscene is called. So, like, let's say our build filled, right? This is our build filled animation. We'll make it like a little bit more than a second, because I want it to take a second to open up the field. Then after we open up the field, we're gonna have to spawn in these growing zones, right? So we'll say, okay, we have we'll put this into our area 2D as well. Our area 2, or zone 2, whatever you want to call it. But then we'll go to our animated sprite, and we'll say, okay, so let's go to our color rect. Actually, let's go down here to rect, and then our size. So you can see our size. Let's try to make this as close as possible, as small as we can. So about 100. That's all right. So 110, right? So it's 110 distance. It covers it up completely, so that's cool. Then we can go to our color rect. We can keyframe the size, and we'll say new track property, yes. We'll key it here, and then we'll go all the way to 1 second, and then we'll key it open at 0. And you can see if you play this animation, it opens up nice and smooth, just like that. But now for the harder part. Now we gotta spawn in these growing zones, right? Which is just visibility. So this is just gonna change the visibility of the growing zones. So if we do, I know a lot of people say don't copy and paste, but this is kind of the only way to do this. So I'm gonna copy a whole row of growing zones. Then we're gonna go to our area 2D. We're gonna add a new static body, which is gonna basically be the holding zone for our growing zones. So we'll have growing zones 2. Paste. Then we can move this over here, and then we can copy, paste, move them down, copy, paste, move them down. Hold up. Okay, so copy, paste, move them down a little bit, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, move them up a little bit, and that looks fine, right? So now we have a whole field, basically. Oh, no way. Okay, we messed that up a little bit, just a little bit. So let's move these up. Move them down. There we go. So now we have a whole field. Now, basically, here's what I want to explain. This is what goes along for every other cutscene in the entire world. So no matter what your game is, this is how you create a cutscene. So obviously you need your cutscene controller so you can control all the cutscenes in the game. And then you need, different zones. So basically, let's say, because for this cutscene, we're opening up a whole new zone, correct? So let's say you want, a player. Let's say you want your player. And hold up. First of all, this is over the green, which is not good. So we need the growing zones to be in front of the tile map, but behind the color rect. So let's say you have a player, right? You have a player and you want the player to, let's say, walk, right? You want it to walk, and then you want, let me get a, a chicken, right? Okay, well, the chicken's behind. Okay, let's fix this real fast. So, you have a chicken, you have a player. You want the player to start here. You want the chicken to be, off the screen. This is the top of the screen. You want the chicken to be off the screen at the start of the cutscene. You want your player to walk, walk, walk. You want the chicken to fall, boom. And you want the player to, tip over and be laying down. So how would you do that? Well, your player, right? This player is a kinematic body, and it has an animated sprite. So you have different animation. You have your walking animation. You have all of your animations, right? Your falling animation, whatever animation you have. Same with the chicken. And you come down here, you add a track, you add a property track, and this is our player. So we would, add our player, and we do position. And you say, okay, so at the start of the animation, the position goes here. Then let's say you want right here, you want the player to be here. So then you change the position to here. Obviously, I'm not going to do it, but you change the position to here. So at this point, it will walk. Then you have another property track, which is the chicken, and then obviously position. And then for the player, you have rotation, right? So then at this point in the track, the chicken ends up, you say, okay, chicken position. So back here, you'd have chicken position equals here. Right here, you'd have chicken position equals here. And then right here, you'd have chicken position equals here. Right here, you'd have, chicken position equals here. So player is here, chicken is here. The player also just played the walking animation, because you can play an animation. You do property check, you do player. Somewhere, I guess you would have to do that through code. Technically, you'd have to go through code to do that. But it's still the exact same thing, right? And then say you have your player, and you have rotation degrees. So let's say, alright, so our player went from here to here and walked. Then we get here, and the chicken here, the position of the chicken starts to change, right? Because we use keyframes, the chicken keyframes change, and the chicken falls, and the chicken hits the head of the player at this point, right? So then the rotation degrees of the player would change at this point, right? I mean, you just gotta go through the animation. You just gotta make animations. You just gotta animate through the animated player, or you can make a video in a editing software and do it that way. I don't recommend that at all, by the way. Just don't do that. I don't recommend it. But let's move the chicken and the player back over here, right? So let's say, obviously, hopefully that made sense. If it didn't, let me know in the comments. I can help you with your game specifically if you let me know in the comments about your game, and I'll help you out. But what everything else in this video compares to everybody. I mean, it's hard for me to make a cutscene that perfectly is a perfect example of your game, but I'm gonna make the cutscene that we had at the beginning of this video, where this opens up and then these are gonna show. And to do that, I'm gonna go into a tiny little time lapse real fast, and that's going to be just to make these visible. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do though, so but if we go to our growing zones, we have all these growing zones, a ton of growing zones. And to do this at 1 second, which means basically this thing's already opened completely, then we want these 6 to show. At 0.1 we want these 6 to show. At 0.2 we want these 6 to show. So how would I do that? Well, at 0.1, we'll just go visibility. We want it to be visible. Create property check. Boom. You just go through, to 6 of these. And obviously, back here, we want it to be not visible. Right? So, as it plays, and then they show after. Right? So, this is going to take a second because, there's like a ton of them here. But I'll be right back in like 2 seconds. Okay, so boom. Now we have our cutscene, right? That's what's gonna happen. That's our cutscene. Now, in our cutscene, we need to play it based on our cutscene controller. So this is gonna control all of our stuff, obviously. This is our cutscene that is going to happen when we walk into this zone. That's going to trigger our cutscene to, you know, open up the field, or to build the field, to say. But we need some type of camera, so we need a camera that, you know, camera zones. Like, this is camera zone 1, this is camera zone 2, cutscene camera, right? So, world, camera 2D. We'll add a camera 2D to our world. We'll make it the current camera. And we will go and play around with the position real fast. So camera 2D position, you know, it needs to be somewhere around here for position 1. So we'll go to transform. So that's like 160, 90. So I guess that's our normal position. So that's our position 1, and then we would have to move it over here. Which over here we would be at. This would be position 2, or I guess somewhere like right here. So 90 is still the same, and then we'll go with like negative 50. So now we'll go to our world. So now we know our zones, right? We'll go to our world, and we'll go and we'll make, you know, some variables. So our variables will be constants, and we'll have, you know, camera position 1x equals 160, constant camera position 1y equals 90. We'll also have constant camera position 2x would equal, what was it, negative 50, I think it was. And then constant camera position to y would equal 90, right? So now we have our 2 camera positions, so we can change based on if we're playing the cutscene, or if we're in this area, we play this, right? Or we have the camera in that side. So to do this, we'll go to our global script real fast, and in our global script, we want to add a, you know, a var camera position, and then we'll go back to our world script, and in our world script, actually, we're going to need to go to our player script. So, actually, first, let's go to our world. Let's see. So, let's get our players, you know, position. So, we want our camera to swap probably around here, right? So, around X20, right? So, when our player gets to X20, then we want to probably swap it to this camera, if that makes sense, or swap to this camera position. So, to do that, we'll go to our player. We'll go down here in our physics process, and we'll just do if self dot position dot x is like greater than 20, and then we'll do, or if it is greater than 20, that means we would be, or no, if 20 is greater than our position, then our global dot camera position would equal to 2. And then else global dot camera position equals to 1, right? So now if we go to our world script again, and in our world script, if we go to our physics process area here, we can do if global, so if global dot camera position is equal to 1, then we want, you know, we want to line up our camera correctly, right? So we'll do camera 2D dot position dot x equals 160, or I guess technically we would do this, right? We would do that, and then we got camera position dot y would equal y, and then if, or else if, let's see, else if global dot camera position is equal to 2, then we would want the same exact thing, just just 2, right? So boom, just like that, our camera should work, right? So now, what happened? Oh, okay. My bad. I forgot to change this. This has to have an overlay in front because I put all this stuff into a folder. So overlay, because I put all this stuff into a folder, it kind of messed that up. But now that we're good, we walk in here, we switch cameras, we walk over here, camera's back, and we're good to go. Right. So okay, that works. Camera works. Wasn't really part of the video, but I mean, camera is important. Obviously, you need a camera to make the game look better. Obviously, that camera, it doesn't look that good because it's just like a boom, it's just a cut, but it gets the job done for the cutscene that we're about to make, or that we have been making. And so now if we go to our world.gd, which we're already in, and then we need to go and change this area down here, right? Because this is what really plays our animation and everything. So we'll basically do if our body, we would have to, okay, yeah, so we need to have our collision shape, right? So we have our collision shape. Where's our collision shape? So the collision shape when we enter area 2, this is our collision shape, right? So it's enabled right now, but when we want to make sure that before we play the animation, we want to make sure that is disabled, or that is active, because if it is disabled, it's kind of just like a second check, because technically if it is disabled, you probably won't be getting this function. It's just a little second check just to make sure we have no bugs or anything like that. So we got, so area 2 slash open farming zone 2 dot collision shape dot disabled equals if it's equal to false, which means that it's active, right? So then we got our global dot camera position equals 2, just to make sure we don't miss anything. And then we got our farming, our area 2, I guess, area 2 slash our animation player dot play, and then we went to our build field animation that we created, which is basically our entire animation. Now, if you are making a super complex animation, obviously you're probably gonna have many animation players, and you might have, 4 or 5 animation players. You might have an animation tree. You might have all that stuff. So you might be right here. You might be calling, 4 different animation players at the same time, which is fine, right? Obviously, it's cool. That's what you need to do. That's how you would do it, right? Area 2 dot open farming zone 2 dot collision shape dot disabled equals true, because right here, whoops, but right here, so basically, if our character enters the zone, first of all, it's going to check if it's the player entering the zone. If it is, then it's going to check to make sure that, the zone hasn't already been enabled, because, if this equals false, then it would have already been enabled. Then our global.camera is going to just make sure we're on camera position 2, so we see the cutscene. It's going to play the animation, and then once the animation is complete, or I guess the animation is not really complete at that point, but it's then going to change the collision shape 2D dot disabled to equals true. So that means it's now disabled. So basically, once we play it, it's disabled. That means we can't keep activating the collision shape multiple times in a row. And then real quick, it does work, but if we go function, or I guess we'll add that here in a second, but if we play, you'll see right here, we're all good. We cross the zone, it plays the animation. We cross back, we cross the zone. It doesn't keep playing the animation. It's just that you see the very first time, when we cross the first time, it's already showing. So to fix that, we can just make a ready function to make sure everything's hidden. And to do that, we would just do area to it'd be our color rect, because that's what's going over. Color rect dot rect size dot x is equal to 110, I think it was. I don't know. Was it that? 110, yeah. So now when we play and we walk across, it builds our field. Now, obviously, this field works. We can bring, didn't mean to plant this, but we can bring the seed pack over here, and it's gonna be under. But that's not a hard fix. That's just based on our layering, which we can fix instantly. But that is how you make a working cutscene in Godot. I mean, there's not much more to a cutscene. Now, obviously, based on your game, there's going to be different ways to go about the cutscene. If you need a player walking animation, if you need the player walking across, then he gets hit by an anvil, then he has to fall down, and you got to put other colors on the screen, right? You just got to go about it how you want it. The animation player, customize it how you need, but the cutscene controller and basically everything else in the video is modular and works for everything. You just may need another animation player, or your animation player might be way longer with 50 items, maybe. I'm just saying, I wouldn't recommend doing a cutscene that big, but if you needed that, that's what you would do, right? And yeah, but then again, if you're making a cutscene that big, let's say you're making a 3-minute cutscene, right? It's a huge cutscene, 3-minute cutscene. It's like a whole story happening. I recommend you making a video, right? Open up, Adobe editing and just make up video with all your characters. Make it edited video style, so it's like a full video. So it's like a 3-minute video, and just put it as an overlay on top of your game. So you can make it look like it's the actual sprites and stuff moving, but really it's just a video playing. That would be much easier. It's just cutscene is just an animation, right? You gotta be good at animation. I'm not very good at animation. That's why I had to make some cutscene where it just opens up the field and spawns growing zones. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you learned something important today, and I hope this series is helping you become a better game developer. I promise this series is one of the greatest series I think that is currently on YouTube, and if you don't believe me, I recommend you going down in the description, clicking on the playlist for the farming series and giving it a watch, and let me know what you think. But thank you. Go down below, hit the subscribe button, and it will help push this video to more game developers who want to learn to make their own Godot games. But thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, have a safe and a wonderful rest of your day.